Hey there, Fab folks. So a couple weeks back, I had put up some gameplay videos of my Fi deck from our Armory events at Gongai. And out of that, I had received some requests for my list. So today I want to do two things. I'm going to go through that list, and then I want to talk about how I believe that list is going to evolve now that Part the Mistveil is out and going forward. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, my flesh and blood friends. Welcome back to Dice Commando, and go again, a fabulous cast and special shout out to all of my Fi folks out there. That's right, this one is for you as request, and yes, this one's kind of a bit of an ad hoc cast. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, I want to do two real things today. So what we're going to do here very shortly is we're going to cut over to me going through the deck live. Now, something that's going to inevitably tick somebody off here is there is no Fabre link for this one. The reason for that is this is a deck that I've had built for well over a year and change, sleeved up, I mean, and I just keep swapping cards out based on some meta stuff I want to do, and I've done a horrible job keeping the Fabre thing up to date. And on top of that, I have zero motivation to go back and log it in Fabre because it's an older deck, right? It was pre-Part the Mistveil. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to go through and make the changes and all that stuff. So let's go through the deck itself. I think it'll provide a good discussion for starting point. If you do not care about going through that IRL in editing, I'm going to add the timestamp and I'll put it below of when we're talking about how I'm going to evolve the deck going forward. Hey there, my Fi friends. Thanks for tuning in for this. So as you can see, this is the deck. This is, again, my playable deck. It's all sleeved up. That's why I wanted to just lay it out. And this is, right, that's Fi there, right? New DC team tourney prize that we had. Nice shiny one. So this shell itself is a Flex Fi deck. Now, the vast majority of this was set up back from the Dromai days. That's why I also have a Kodachi option. We don't have a bunch of Rupture stuff in here, but the Kodachis were basically for poking targets. I think I'm likely going to stick with the Kodachis through the Enigma meta. But we'll have to get that a little more play testing. But my favorite way to play it is with the Searing Emberblade. Obviously, Searing Emberblade, really, really cool, but you have to make sure that you have a Draconic starter in order to get everything to go again. I am on Mask of Momentum. Mask of Momentum is the only mask I'm running. I'm not running the Lynx mask. Obviously, it can be very good to pull the thing, but like what I like to do is to maintain constant pressure. So I prefer the Mask of Momentum, and because I find myself using MOM more often, I actually wanted the sideboard slot. Tiger Stripe Shuko is really good. Also, it is unblockable, which is relevant for, or unpreventable, I should say, which is relevant for Ward, Flamescale Furnace, and then Snappies, and then Tide Flippers, obviously, for the sideboard. Right now, into the red-blues. So Brand, obviously really good with red-blue. Rising Resentment, also really good with red-blue. Ronin Renegade, I do have red-blue currently. That's, again, because in the Draconic, even though Ronin Renegade as a blue is really just a blank 0-1 goes, it is Draconic, and sometimes in-game you do need that blue to get your chain started. So that's why I'm on that. Now, if we're running Kodachis, I actually swap it out with, go ahead and get into the sideboard slots. But if we're running a Kodachi build, or if we think that it's going to be a faster game, we'll run Nasty Surprise instead. And you could also run Stab Wound. Stab Wound is something that I've been popping in and out based on the Kodachi build. Okay. Now I am on Lava Vein Loyalty Red-Blue. This is a really good, I mean, Lava Vein Red is kind of a no-brainer. The reason that we're running Blue Loyalty, again, is this is a Defend 3. So it makes a lot of sense to, again, you have a Kodachi feeder, gets a 0, it's a 3, and it's also a Draconic. It is not a starter though, right? So the 3, you just be careful with that. Right now, Soaring Strike is a card that I used to run 2 of, but I'm now on 3 of. What's really cool about this card is if it hits, so it's a breakpoint first off, fire starter, but if it hits, you can give a 0, like again, in position 1, you can give a 0 go again, which is super, super relevant for something like a Lava Burst, or a Snatch, right? Snatch, or Tenacity, which is my favorite new card that I'm running instead of Salt to Wound. I think it works better in this deck, okay? Because they do like to block, again, because we're running Mask of Momentum. Right, Art of War, I think Art of War speaks for itself. In terms of the enders, we have Lava Burst, we have Snatch. We also have Blaze Headlong, which obviously that's not an ender. It's a very good mid-chain card. Going into the starters, we already talked about Soaring Strike. Mounting Anger kind of speaks for itself. This card is really strong. They do not want to let this card hit because then you get a +1. And then I also have Bittering Thorns because Bittering Thorns is crazy good. Now it is not a fire starter, but it's still a super good red card. Blaze Headlong, by the way, does not look for Draconic. It only looks for red, so that's very relevant. I do mainboard Sink Below, but obviously you can swap it out as needed. And then I have Double Strike. We have Soulbead Strike, which is a good chain ender. Again, if it hits, it has Go Again. So end game, right? It's doing what you need to do for being a blue pitch, defends 3. And in game, it can kind of make them do what they want, or make them do what they don't want to do because they have to worry about the Go Again. And then of course, good old, and this is my pink one, good old Ancestral Empowerment is actually the first M I ever pulled, which is kind of fun. But Ancestral is stupid good on a mass trigger, coming over 1, drawing a card, and then triggering mask. Awesome. Then of course we balance out the 60 with my Phoenix Flame there. Okay, so that is the main 60 deck. Now going into the sideboard to round out the Null Rune, AB2, by the way. I'm playing Robe. Okay, now I have 2 copies of Spreading Flames. This is, again, if you want to go a little more aggressive with like the Sink Belows or something like that. Spreading Flames, and I have kind of a love-hate relationship of it's really hard to make this card work sometimes. If you really think about the ceiling potential on this, it could be pretty gross. But most of the times, you're only getting it off of like maybe 1 to 2 cards. So not super great, and that's why it's in the sideboard. Nasty Surprise, we already talked about that. 3 copies of that. You could also do Stab Wound if you think that you're going to lean more into Kodachis. That's something we could see in the future. I have 3 copies now. I used to run 2, but I have 3 copies currently of That All You Got. Not only is it a D-React for, you know, the bad matchups that you really need more D-Reacts, but it's also really good for like pistols or Cintauri Sabers and stuff like that. And then last up, we have 3 copies of Brand Yellow. And that is if you're running Kodachis, right? Turns them into Draconics. One of the challenges when running Kodachis is that it becomes hard to get link 3 sometimes for Phoenix Flame. So that is the 80 cards. We'll head back over to the real cast and chat the future of this deck in a minute. Hey folks, welcome back. So hopefully that came out okay. I'll do my best in editing to balance the sound and all that so we don't blow your eardrums out. At least that'll be the goal. But I thought it was important. It was important to me at least to go through it in the real sleeves, right? Go through the real deck and show that it was a real deck with, you know, some of the changes that I've made. Now, going forward, right, as I mentioned, this was a pre-Partemis Fail deck. Even some of it, like the Kodachi line, was kind of a holdover from the Dramai area, and obviously she's been gone for a while. So let's talk next phase. Now, the elephant in the room I think we need to address is pretty simple. Zen is super crazy strong right now. Right, so, you know, one of the issues, obviously Phi won Worlds, but in my opinion, one of the issues since then, kind of even before then to a certain extent, was, you know, Katsu just seemed to have more raw damage output than Phi. I think Zen has absolutely more raw damage output than Phi. So it's one of those questions of, you know, why Phi? And I think you just have to, you know, if you're going to be on Phi, I think you just accept that it's because you want to play Phi. Right. I don't think he necessarily brings anything to the table in terms of crazy advantage over the other heroes, specifically Zen, right? So with that understood, right, and with that acknowledged, let's go ahead and talk how I think he needs to evolve. So one of the things you would have noticed in that deck is that I have, over time, sighted out my poppers. The part of the reason for that was I chose to go Kodachis into Dramai instead of trying to play poppers and do my thing. It seemed to work very well. I didn't really have any serious issues with her, at least in my meta. Didn't mean I won all the time, but I didn't need the poppers. And now with Prism becoming more of a thing, right, that's obviously not going to hold, right? So I'm going to need some poppers like, you know, Findall's Fighting Spirit or maybe the new Bastion, probably, or the way I'll go. The question is, can I do the flex thing using all of those slots? I don't think so. So I think with the wards now from Enigma, I think we're going to have to lean into more of a Kodachi style build. I actually don't know that the Draconic build, which for me is the fun one, I don't know that the Draconic build is going to be able to do what we want it to do. I think we want to rather be coming in with a bunch of small attacks, right? And I think that tracks. So trying to, that's where I see it going. I'm going to have to play around with exactly the right ratios and stuff, but we get a little bit back if we stop looking at, you know, if we move over to more of a fundamental line build, like there's cards like Water the Seeds, stuff like that. I think you shift over to that. The problem is it brings us back to the Wi-Fi question to a certain extent, because the advantage of Phi is being able to pull that Phoenix Flame. But in order to pull that Phoenix Flame, you have to have Draconic. I mean, you can pay into it, but that's really bad value, right? So what you want is a bunch of Draconic links on the chain. So barring, you know, a brand Kodachi, and then something else like a Blaze, you're not generally getting that. So, you know, I'm finding that when you're doing Kodachi lines, you're only maybe like best case scenario pulling a Phoenix Flame for free, maybe 50% of the time. And I guess it's not horrible if you pay one into it, but you start to see what I'm driving at, right? Is what's the true advantage for Phi? So I think that's really the question that I need to answer. Kodachi's into Rupture super easy, right? Good value there. So then do you play a Kodachi, you know, because you can do it effectively with a 3-card hand, right? You can go Kodachi, something, even a 1-for-4, like a Bettering Thorns Kodachi to follow up with, you know, Lava Burst. That's really good value, right? That's pretty good. So do you do more of a defensive type take, trying to do that and then set up for a pop-off turn? I think that's potential. But again, you got to remember, or what I'm trying to consider here is the challenges he's up against. And again, you're running out of card slots. I do like running the D-Reacts because you can still run into like an Azalea, shut you down, a Bravo Spinal, or any Guardian Spinal Crush will shut you down. So you have to have the protection there. Plus then you're maybe looking at poppers. And then the last thing I will say on the wards and the angels for the Illusionists is a huge advantage here is Tiger Stripe Shuko. But again, remember, it's not Draconic. Anybody can run it. So it's really good in the class for what you're trying to do. But again, it's the question of Wi-Fi. So I'll just be honest. I think that's the question we as Phi fans need to go answer is Wi-Fi. What can he do different? So I'd love your feedback below as I continue to evolve this deck going forward. But hey, I'm still going to keep jamming it because I love playing this hero. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Thanks for joining. And you know what? If you enjoyed the deck tech, something different, let me know. If not, that's cool too. Let me know either way. Go Commando.